Welcome back to Loose Talk. This week, Mitt Romney, as expected, won an emphatic triple victory in the primaries held here in Washington, D.C., in Maryland, and most importantly for him, in the Midwestern state of Wisconsin, really finally laying to rest any doubts whatsoever that Romney is destined to become the Republican nominee. Any doubts, that is, except with Rick Santorum, who appears not to have got the memo in spite of having lost a string of victories in the last few weeks and now mathematically incapable of catching up with Mitt Romney to win enough delegates.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pennsylvania and half the other people in this country have yet to be heard. And we're going to go out and campaign here and across this nation to make sure that their voices are heard in the next few months.
Santorum's great hope, which I think the fact that Romney only narrowly beat him in Wisconsin, he beat him heavily in the other two primaries, but narrowly in Wisconsin, is that he can go on in 3 weeks from now to win the primary in his home state of Pennsylvania. He could win Pennsylvania, and it would still make no mathematical difference to the almost certain outcome. What it could do, though, is drag Mitt Romney just that little bit further to the right. He's already been dragged quite far to the right. The fact that he'll be seeking the endorsement in Pennsylvania of people like Senator Pat Toomey, founder of the Club for Growth, which is a very conservative group, probably isn't helpful to Mitt Romney from a general election point of view.
We know who we are here in Pennsylvania. We know who we are. We know the stock that we are made of.
All of which, however, is really secondary to the main point, which is that the general election is now beginning. It's now on between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. And the president's campaign this week released its first official attack ad against Mitt Romney, dissecting some of the claims that it says are false that Romney has made against the president.
The president said something interesting over the weekend. He said that in an ideal world, government could spend as much as it wanted.
Now, if this were a perfect world, we'd have unlimited resources. No one would ever have to pay any taxes, and we could spend as much as we wanted. But we live in the real world. We don't have unlimited resources. We have a deficit that needs to be paid down. And we also have to pay for investments that will help our economy grow and keep our country safe.
This week, the president also delivered a very hard-hitting speech attacking the Republican budget, the budget put forward by Paul Ryan, the Wisconsin congressman and leading fiscal conservative of the Republicans, whose budget has been endorsed by Mitt Romney, strongly endorsed. In fact, Mitt Romney described it as marvelous, a word that the president singled out and mocked as kind of emblematic of the sorts of language that a 1% candidate would use.
He said that he's very supportive of this new budget. And he even called it marvelous, which is a word you don't often hear when it comes to describing a budget. It's a word you don't often hear generally. So, here's what this marvelous budget does.
Our odd moment of the week this week comes from Israel, where Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey traveled to meet many of the leading dignitaries, including Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister. Now, what was Governor Christie doing in Israel? Well, we're into the general election, as I've said, and the search, therefore, by Governor Romney for a vice presidential running mate is now on. Chris Christie, who's a gutsy, larger-than-life in many respects, blue-collar-ish governor of an East Coast state, is one of those who are believed to be on the short list. And of course, in order to win the hearts and minds of the Republican faithful, standing shoulder to shoulder with Israel is an absolute necessity. But Romney has many vulnerabilities, and therefore there are several others on the possible VP shortlist. Chris Christie, of course, caters to those who don't belong to the 1%. He deals with the middle class vote that Romney has such difficulty connecting with. Paul Ryan deals with the base of the conservative movement that wants more small government and that suspects Romney's fidelity to these principles. And Marco Rubio deals with the Hispanic vote, which, given Romney's great emphasis on self-deportation, is very much turned off his candidacy at the moment. It's an interesting list that tells you a lot about his potential vulnerabilities in the general election. That's it for Loose Talk this week. We will see you again before the primary in Pennsylvania.